Hey everyone, this is Marie Ampelocchio of Radix HR. I actually can't believe it. We are now wrapping up our very first season of Breaking the Mold. What a journey it has been. This season has been all about shaking things up in HR and exploring new ways to really take care of our people. Because let's be honest, if we're not innovating, we're actually falling behind. Let's look back at some of the most inspiring moments from our amazing episodes. Ian and Jeng got us talking about the difference between wellness and well being. It's not just about annual checkups anymore, it's about long term, sustainable solutions that help employees feel supported in every aspect of life: physical, emotional, and even financial.
So when we talk about wellness, it's mostly objective measures like your weight, your blood pressure, your nutrition, all these things. For well-being, the measures are both objective because it encompasses wellness and also subjective because somebody can say that my quality of life, for example, that's part of well-being, is good or is bad. It depends on the person speaking about his or her well-being. Secondly, usually it's the first one that people define, no, the scope. So wellness is just the part that's physical, mental, all these things that can be measured, as I said earlier, objectively measured.
Right.
And then well-being is more encompassing, as he said. So it covers your physical, social, emotional, even spiritual, financial well-being. So all these things that make a human, a person, a whole
Right.
person, is part of what we consider on well-being now. Last thing is the scope. No? So whenever we measure wellness, it's usually limited to, let's say, annual physical.
Exactly.
This is your BP at this point. But well-being, when you make interventions for well-being, it's more long-term. The interventions are more than just a year even.
Correct. Which actually, this is a perfect question next to that point is despite the absence now of COVID, that has been solved for. The focus on wellness is still there because companies still continue to have whatever interventions they have, such as the annual physical examination and whatnot, that actually covers that part. But the aspect of well being is there is a surge of conversation and a surge of interventions. To what is it attributed to, this particular surge? Maybe, Ian, you can go ahead on this one first.
I like to say that it's one of the few good things that happened because of the pandemic. This elevated level of awareness in terms of well-being, and I don't think it's something that's going away. I mean, it had to
Okay.
take something very drastic, such as the pandemic, to bring this to the forefront of everyone's minds. And
Right.
I don't think this is going away. This is going to be constantly in the conversation moving forward, not just from a personal perspective, but in the minds of companies, corporations, in terms of the well-being of their employees. So,
Right, right. And Jeng, I know you will dovetail to that point. On the surge, why do companies have to, if you already have the, checking the blood markers of the employees, you already have your doctors for their heart and all this stuff, why still invest more beyond wellness? Why still go for well-being? And I love what Ian said, which is it's not going away. But what does it respond to?
I feel bad about being happy that a lot of people realized the importance of first was mental health because we were all locked up at home
Yes, yes.
because of the lockdown. So a lot of people were forced to introspect about the importance of health in all its aspects, physical, mental, because you can't go out, you can't jump, run, and do the
Right.
usual things that you do. So, and these people are everyone, because it's a pandemic, not just the people who cannot afford good health care,
Right.
good HMO. So now, the leaders before who had access to all these things, sometimes they don't even think about how those who don't have enough financial resources to provide for themselves now realize that I am only as vulnerable as the most vulnerable person
Right.
around me. So I feel like the awareness of leaders, of organizations and institutions has really spurred that realization that this is something that has to be sustained. Not only because it's the pandemic. It's that awakening. Kasi before, it's like selling and selling. As an HR professional, it feels like a gargantuan task
Right.
to persuade your leaders to give this and that to employees, especially mental care.
Right.
You know, we don't have that because it's expensive. It's not part of the HMO. But now there's the realization of everyone, especially the decision makers. And they know that it's important for everyone to have access to it.
Correct.
I feel that that's what's sustaining it. Because if the leaders, the decision makers did not realize that, then
Nicole shared her incredible story about balancing career and growth and motherhood. Imagine starting a new role while pregnant and thriving. Her experience proves that when you trust your people and give them the flexibility they need, they'll give back tenfold. See, initially when you applied, you didn't know yet until the time we called you na we want you to work with us, and you found that you were 3 weeks pregnant.
Yes.
Woo! Okay. As I mentioned to you, as an HR professional, and I hate to say it, but it's true that many companies still would think of the ROI they would get from a new hire. And knowing that you will be 3 months, like in the Philippine labor law, out of the company, tapos you're new, year 1,
Yes.
but man, we did it.
We're still here.
We're still here. We're still
We're
together.
still strong, yeah.
So tell us that point when you finally decided, okay,
Okay.
this company wants me, pinili kita, pinili mo ako. How was that for you?
At first, it was challenging because it's like you and Randy told me that this will be your work. You'll be the HR of the internal amplified company, but you're also doing talent acquisition. So how would I balance my work? Because I was so used to being like in the HR field, but not so much on the recruitment from my previous job. But because of, I guess, your trust in me, how you believe in my capabilities, and how much I saw of how much you wanted to grow me in my own career path, despite of me having my baby.
And that baby became like a family member, like bringing kids. I know many companies, even outside of the Philippines, they have special programs or invoke, bringing kids at the office. But again, it's not the general rule.
Yes.
But for Radix HR, it became the only rule.
Yes.
Bring look to work day. Almost, the time every
Super
time we meet.
thankful for that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess when you gave me the opportunity or the choice
Mm.
to work, but at the same time, you can bring your baby, parang, wow, it's something super different that I can be a full-time mom, but also at the same time, working on my career growth.
Mm.
So, it's something, like, it's an edge of Radix now. Wow. It's not so normal nga in other companies.
Right. And truly, there were days that we are in meeting and Look was literally, we really
Yes,
saw Look
like
from the
3
bump
months.
up to the time that he is there now. No? So I know your job just got bigger. It expanded over the years. So how has that changed in your being a mother? And I know that's still the priority and we recognize that.
Yes.
There's no hold back on both parties to say, no, that's your priority, right? But how has that been for you? How have you balanced things out? How has it been since the time you were hired, pregnant, now Look is there, your role has expanded within Radix. It could not possibly be that easy. How has it been for you?
Still challenging, of course. A lot of changes, a lot of work. Now extra work because I'm managing a team under me wherein I started. It's just me and Randy and just me.
Yes,
So
yes.
It was, I guess, so much easier because now also have Lucas to manage. What I'm currently interviewing, and then Lucas will be going up in my lap and then maybe like saying hi to the camera. So I say to the candidate, sorry, I'm working from home. So these are the normal challenges of as a mom. That most of the candidates understand it. So it's not
Absolutely.
an issue. So still the same, but I guess more fun now. And then I'm more mature.
Then there's Randy, who brought leadership back to its basics: discipline, accountability, and trust. Whether you're leading a team or raising kids, the principles are the same. Build habits that matter and create a culture where failure is okay as long as you learn and own it.
I think there are certain degrees of how am I being a leader and a father? Of course, first and foremost, it's discipline. My son, my 5-year-old son, as early as 2, 3 years old, when he was 2, 3 years old, you go back to the first question as a leader and a father. You set the tone. What you do is, when you say discipline, it's how you create a habit. I create a habit with my son, especially the values. The simple things of helping me doing our bed once we wake up,
Tama.
once we go to bed, the simple toothbrush, washing the face. So those are when you
Micro habits.
micro habits
No?
that those little things that you create makes a big difference in the long run.
Absolutely.
It's the same doing it on an office situation or scenario. When I go to the office, when I'm having a meeting with my teammate, I'm with them. Or if ever I have let's say, a new teammate, it's the same thing. You set the tone, you set the bar, you create a habit, and then that habit makes it like a disciplinary action to what he or she does every day. After that, it's more on accountability.
Wow.
Accountability, you take ownership. I allow my son to make mistakes. I allow
Right.
my son to fail. It's the same with my teammates. Even with myself, I allow myself to fail at some point. But at the end of the day, if I made that mistake, I own that mistake. So I need to understand, my teammate needs to understand that it's okay to make mistake as long as you take accountability to it. Once you take accountability to it, it makes you progress. It makes you want more. That leads you to success.
Ganda.
So
Sounds like a formula already. Parang discipline, accountability, allowance for failure. But it sounds like already a formula for somebody like to progress bigger and better in one's life.
yes, and then after which, it's supposed to be an open communication because it's a two-way street. It's not me being a leader, I won't listen to my son as a father.
Right.
And as a leader, I won't listen to my teammates. I need to understand where they're coming from, and they need to understand where am I coming from too. So really open communication. After that, I guess respect, but I put it on the tail end because for me, respect should be inborn.
So there's a saying na respect should be earned. In your case, what you're saying to the public is that respect is inborn.
Yeah, for me, respect is inborn. Even you meet a stranger, you should have a mutual respect. But if we're trying to say we need to gain something, it's not respect, but it's another word, which is trust.
Ryle gave us a crash course on organizational development. I know OD can sound like corporate jargon, but it's a game changer for solving real problems like attrition and mismatch expectations. His approach: dig deep, use data, and measure your success, not just today, but long term.
The challenges that OD tackles are all of the challenges that an organization encounters. The key difference from an actual OD practitioner is that we assess it differently. So, for example, a client came to us with a massive attrition issue. So, we first have to understand why this exists and design our interventions around that. In one particular instance, we identified that there is a mismatch between the expectation between the end user, the recruiter, and the training, the learning and development function. So we can design particular interventions to address for that. It's either front loading the recruitment function, depending on the resources of the organization.
Right.
They may fortify the recruitment process, accept that the attrition will be part of their regular operations. But that, of course, will have a huge cost, but requires less effort in their side and can only be really executed if they have a strong sourcing platform and if, of course, they have the reputation to support it. Next would be a lot more effort is to further fortify so this is backloading it, fortifying their learning and development function and making sure that the few that come into their recruitment are fully equipped and will stay long within the
Correct.
organization.
Right.
And then finally,
The training side.
on the end user side,
Okay.
this would apply to both interventions, is understanding and mitigating the internal factors that cause the attrition and addressing for that. It requires a lot of nuance. It requires a lot of understanding in terms of the different factors that play a role and making sure that you identify what's controllable or not. Every intervention, every problem that you will be tackling will be a bit of a smaller action research where you perform a natural experiment. You're
Mm.
controlling for variables and making sure that all of the participants are aware of what their role is to make sure that you get success. And of course, we want to measure that success. We don't want to just implement an intervention and hope for the best.
Absolutely.
It's never going to be. So this feeds into your question a while ago. Sorry if I'm
Right. Yeah, no, I
going
love
back a
that
bit.
you're very
Yeah.
granular about it.
So it feeds into what you mentioned a while ago, why a lot of organizations do not want to have an OD function or do not have an OD function because they don't see the effectiveness.
Mm.
When an HR, a relatively young HR function in its early stages of development, implements an intervention, rarely does it measure the impact over a long course of time.
Correct.
It's usually
Correct.
just in the immediate. You would see if it worked or if it didn't. You wouldn't
Right.
really break down why it didn't work
Correct.
and when it should. So that's a difference. If you want to use really an organizational development model, you have to understand why it did not work, assess for success, because it's rarely a one-size-fits-all model.
And Via, she reminded us that performance management isn't what it used to be. Forget clocking in and out. Companies are now measuring results, not time. Feedback is faster, collaboration is king, and technology is leading the way.
It's interesting because the landscape has changed over time. Like, I have been working for 24 straight years. And then now, of course, I'm with you in the consulting world. And I have seen quite a number of changes and evolution that came along with it. And I have not really experienced it myself nor
Sure.
introduced it, but
Sure.
I can probably name one, which is the emergence of technology had allowed leaders or organizations to shift from a SMART goal that is for the entire year to very specific projects or a system's completion, a project completion alone. Because it would take time to actually build, let's say in the digital world, it may take 6 months to complete a digitalization or a digitization project. And so it's still a goal, but it's veering away from the X number of financial, people, operations, right? And then
Right.
innovation. They tend to just stick on the innovation piece.
So Via, just so the audience know, what you're saying is
Yan.
it is a toss between having companies right now, big and small, global, local, that has actually existed for many years and decades using a performance management framework. You know, and it doesn't matter whether it's the management by objective type or the balance scorecard.
Yeah.
You're saying that the emergence now has led to companies that are no longer using performance management.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow, yun. I think
Yan.
that's a clear point to make there.
Yes.
So companies can exist without it, but you said earlier that it was with the aid of technology. Okay, nice.
Yep, right? It's really surprising because one, like myself, who is so used to having empirical data to support the performance of an individual, whether it's goals, data, or behavior, right? Now is being changed to you're given a long-term project that you need to accomplish in a year. And that's why also I believe that results-driven approach is
It is.
also being covered now in the hybrid operating model for
Correct.
some companies,
Correct.
where employees are no longer clocking in and clocking out,
Right,
And
right.
that
No.
does not really matter compared to our early years,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Where 8 to 6 or 8 to 5 is
Highly
really
traditional,
important.
correct.
Highly traditional.
Yes.
So now leaders would tend to look at output and
Correct.
results.
So, meaning it is in some way shape and form a performance management, but given a super different light in the sense that it's not in that framework of doing a self-assessment. It's more about your output and how your team has maybe a 360 feedback that covers how you have worked and collaborated with other people.
Correct.
And that covers pretty much it.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's number one, right? And you have clearly defined it in that manner. You said the second system, which is the 360-degree feedback.
Right.
Because right now, almost always gone are the days where it's only the manager giving the employee a rating.
Right.
Right? there are more now stakeholders or even customers. That's why if you take a look at our world now, everywhere you can see a customer experience survey, whether in a service industry or a retail industry or restaurants, right? You almost always can see everybody asking for feedback and
Correct.
asking for rating, which is now
Performance of the individuals that have managed those particular set of customers.
absolutely. Sir, that was on spot. And that was actually the reason why the culture now has evolved from a manager subordinate to a stakeholder,
Love that.
customer,
Nice.
manager, and employee kind of feedback.
Love that. Guest DG Mendoza fired us up with a fresh perspective on talent acquisition. It's not about ticking boxes on a job description. It's about understanding culture, values, and motivations to find the right fit. Trust me, he had me rethinking everything I thought I knew about hiring.
People know, okay, so ito pala yung, okay. So they know, they will apply to your website, they'll chat probably on the Facebook. Pero what if you don't have a brand? Eh, ba't mo i-discount yung budget mo? Then the more that you should invest to the sourcing channels and the job boards. And going back to the good and bad habit, that may dictate a good and a bad habit to the. Kasi baka mamaya, the recruiters would tend to, oh yeah, I have a job board naman eh. I will not be creative. Pero dapat you gotta avoid that. Kasi at the end of the day, you go back to, okay, finding the right talent. What if you have that pero hindi naman nag-generate ng right pool? Then you gotta be more creative in where you try to find the talent.
Tama. And ikaw, Randy, what's the most inexpensive way to recruit? What's the cheapest way to recruit?
Yourself. Ikaw yung tool, ikaw yung produkto. Again, yung AI, the system, the new tools, it would be helpful kung ang daming data dyan. Pero kung hindi mo alam paano gamitin yung data na yan, magkamali ka ng post sa job board, maling talent din agad ang makukuha mo. So, you need to identify, especially know yourself.
Which leads me to a very, very good question to ask, which is hireability. I think one of the mark of a great talent acquisition person, in whatever capacity or level that person might be, is somebody who can hit the mark based on the hireability rate. Pero paano mo natuturo yon? Years ba yan of experience? Kasi ultimately, it cannot always be a numbers game. You have to hit the mark. So, what are some of the factors that you have used to make sure that yung hireability is at its highest or higher level?
Hireability meaning yung hit rate mo to fulfill
Yes.
demands.
Na spot on. Meaning, you did not have to do a rework.
Kasi
Base
nahanap mo
dun,
yung tamang
nahanap mo na agad yung tamang talent.
Conversion.
Conversion. O hitting the mark right away. Kasi maraming akong nakita, nakatrabaho na nahirapan sila to hit the mark right away. But recently, I'm happy to note na some of our clients in Radix HR, nabanggit nila that the hireability of our talent pool has been at its really good level.
Okay.
Oo. Pero how do you get to that is I think something I want to share with our audience.
Siguro for me, at least to answer your question, I think it's from experience and trying to better understand ano ba yung hanap ng client mo.
Tama.
And being on the consulting side, you gotta have value to your clients.
Yes.
And kahit na sinasabi mo na you're a third party outside of their organization, and that's like really what you have to bring to the table.
Yes.
Trying to understand ano ba yung culture nyo, ano yung
Yes.
values nyo.
Yes.
Kasi that's where you're gonna find the match outside. Kasi some people might see TA na, tick box item, ito yung binigay. No, it's not that. So there's like an unwritten rule on the JD or unwritten thing on the JD na, the talent should match the values. Hindi nakasulat yun, pero the talent should match the
Absolutely.
values.
Absolutely.
So that's where TA would need to identify. May mga certain questions ka na, ano yung motivation mo? Are you exploring? What do you value the most? And dapat magmamatch yun dun sa values ng client mo.
Correct.
And then in turn, yung hireability mo would go into the high speed. Kasi, one, your client will trust you more.
Yes.
That's the way that they'll give you more demand.
Yes.
Diba? Kasi yun yun.
Yes.
Okay, so alam na pala ni Team Radix yung
Exactly,
talent. Okay,
exactly,
so sila na.
right,
Diba? So
right.
ganun siya. And that's from experience. I'm not saying na in one meeting, naintindihan mo na. No, it's not. So it's a series of meetings, experiences with the client. That's why I do not want to call vendors. They
Well
are
said.
partners.
Love
They're
it.
not vendors.
Love it. Janet warmed our hearts with her growth story, from overcoming stage fright to stepping into leadership. her journey shows a supportive family life culture that can bring out the best in anyone. If you only have three things to highlight in your 3 years of stay, what would you highlight as the most memorable, shall we say, milestones or achievement that you have with Radix?
Unang-una yung communication. Sobrang baba ng confidence ko and hindi ko talaga kayang humarap sa maraming tao. Pero with Radix, talagang natutunan ko na i-conquer yung stage fright ko. Kahit pa paano, hindi pa naman sobra, pero kahit pa paano talagang
I know.
nakakapagsalita na ako sa harap. Then pangalawa, syempre yung yung career growth ko sa Radix. I know na the end-to-end, hindi naman sobra, pero end-to-end ng
Yeah.
accounting.
You know the business inside out.
Yes. And malaking help din sa akin yung legal side ng accounting. Kasi kapag nasa big corporation ka at part ka lang talaga ng isang department doon, yun lang doon ka lang like AP, AR, doon ka lang. Pero dito, natutunan ko yung iba't ibang aspect ng accounting, iba't ibang department, as in end-to-end siya. Then yung third is yung family feeling na work environment.
Wow.
Yan. Alam naman natin na sa big corporation, yung team mo lang talaga yung magiging kasundo mo dun. Diba? Sila yung lagi mong co-work. Pero
Yes.
dito sa Radix, yun nga, even the CEO, walang mom and sir, talagang makakasalamuha mo lahat.
Wow. Thank you. Nakaka-proud. Nakaka-proud. And as of the time of this recording, I just want to say that Janet has recently been promoted to Head of Finance and Pricing for Radix HR. She's now an assistant manager where she started as supervisor. So we're very, very, very
Thank
proud
you.
of her, actually. Of course, there was Taysha Valenza, who taught us about the power of voice. In this digital age, we can't lose the human touch. Your tone, intention, and confidence can make all the difference, whether you're leading a team, speaking to clients, or just connecting with people.
Everybody needs to be able to speak
love that.
well and have the confidence to do so and the compassion. And I just find that every group has gotten something valuable out of it.
So, Taysha, this program has been out there for a couple of years. You even had a TED
Talk, that's how I launched Give Great Voice.
Correct. And I'm just wondering, and I'm sure anybody who reads your bio would be interested to find out, is there a particular set of audience that this program resonates more to than other
Others.
demographics?
Yes. Well, I launched Give Great Voice at a college, La Sierra University, and it was young college kids that I felt, again, I could connect with because I have this voiceover animation background, and I thought, okay, young people really need to be empowered because a lot of them now are growing up with only digital communication as their primary way. And so I thought, well, let me empower them to give great voice, to channel their inner voiceover actor. But then I've given the Give Great Voice workshop to women's groups for business and C-level because they need to be able to communicate and have that confidence and authority in many times where they're primarily the minority, where it's mostly a male-dominated industry. And so I've been able to help empower them to still keep their feminine energy, but feel more confident and have the tools to create a tone of authority as well as warmth. So that's been great. And then again, ultimately, everybody needs to be able to have the confidence when they speak. Because at the end of the day, there is no relationship that gets further, whether it's customer service, where they have to not only have the ability to give great voice, but listen with an intention and tone. And so that group has been empowered greatly because to have the tools to withstand the negative energy and tone and to be able to have more compassion and empathy and convey it, you can de-escalate a negative experience so quickly. And that actually has been very successful for the corporations because it ends up as dollars and cents. Because when you can make a phone call successful and keep a customer happy, that is good for the bottom line, but it's also great for the company's morale. And I think, again, that if I could offer that to lift them up and empower them, it just is a ripple effect. So I'd like to say there's one group, but I haven't met one that seems to be more important than another. Everybody needs to give great voice.
Perfect. And We wrapped up the season with our resident nutritional guru, Oka Sanyes. He dropped the truth bombs about employee health. Here's the deal. Metabolic health isn't just about looking good. It's about feeling your best so that you can show up energized and focused. If we want productive, happy teams, we've got to start with their well-being. And now, the million-dollar question. Why we get fat? So, if we are to be, ako happy ako that you were very granular with your responses and it is scientific and we explained it in layman's language. That is, I'm sure, appreciated by our audience. Pero when it boils down to the question of why we get fat, let's go to the essence of what are the food that needs to be avoided. Kanina we started with saying, okay, how do you start your day?
Sure.
For breakfast. Pero ito talagang ibigay na natin sa kanila, Oka. What should they avoid?
Okay, give it to them.
Give it to them.
Okay, number one, avoid carbohydrates, sugars, starchy foods. They will not help you get to the optimal health that you need. Scientifically, there is really no need for dietary carbohydrates in your food. Your body needs some glucose, but your body can readily make them from the proteins and fats that you eat.
Correct.
There's no chemical action in your body that will require that you eat carbohydrates. That will only make you fat, make you less healthy. Number two, prioritize proteins and fats. Particularly, I'm talking about real food sources for protein and fat. So enjoy your chicken, enjoy your beef, enjoy your dairy, enjoy your eggs, the butter, and all the delicious saturated fats like coconut oil. A combination of good quality protein and saturated fats will be very healthy. You need some omega-3 fatty acids as well, fats from fish, fish oil and fish fat, fatty fish. Those are very healthy. Dairy fats are very healthy. So eliminate starch and sugars. They will only make you sick. Prioritize proteins and fats. And number three, avoid those artificial oils, industrial oils. Those are the modern oils that you see in the supermarkets and the groceries. These are industrial oils like canola, corn oil, soybean oil. Those are modern oils. Those are not natural oils from ancestral diets.
Right.
Go for the real oils like coconut oil and beef tallow and butter and lard, avocado oil and olive oil. Those are the healthy fats. Avoid the artificial. The modern fats will basically make your cells brittle, the cellular membrane brittle, and will contribute to higher free radicals, making you more fat and more sick. And finally, sleep is very important. A good amount of sleep, good 6-7 hours or even 8 hours, and nature exposure. Get a good amount of sunlight if you can, whether it's morning, noon, or evening, or late or dawn. Exposure to nature, including grounding, deep breathing, and meditation, will improve the balance of your autonomic nervous system, especially in our very stressed life, whether it's work stress or family stress or whatever, love stress. You need to be able to balance that with nature, relaxation, and meditation so you have a more resilient body. Avoid getting sick, getting infected by whatever virus or bacteria are out there. So that will strengthen your body condition.
While you were talking, I can imagine people like going like this and sort of, I'm sure like there are things in what you said that are super normal in their lifestyle, in their pantry, in their cafeteria.
Yeah.
And so now you gave it to them, those 4 big factors that really affect why they get fat. And those guidance are really, really very crucial and important. Wow. Oka, this has been one amazing episode. In fact, I feel very strongly that we will have more episodes on health because I want our corporate leaders and HR folks to design programs that are around. Kung may financial scorecard or business scorecard, I want to encourage them to come up with a health scorecard for the employees.
Yep.
And this could be one way, I hope, that they can pick up from what you mentioned today, list them down, and come
Yeah.
up with inspiring and innovative programs that could change the way their employees and the family members' health would look like.
Definitely.
Now, if this season taught us one thing, it's that HR isn't about policies and paperwork. It's about people. It's about building cultures where employees can thrive, leaders can lead, and everyone can bring their best selves to work. But guess what? This is just the beginning. Season 2 is going to be bigger and bolder with radical ideas and tough topics that are reshaping the world of HR. So hit subscribe and let's keep pushing boundaries together. Because here at Breaking the Mold, we make change happen. See you on Season 2.